Hillary Shelton, the director of the Washington Bureau of the NAACP, has criticized this ad, and he said, Ken Millman, that you went down to the NAACP in July of 2005 and apologized for the Southern strategy of Republican candidates under Richard Nixon and using race as a wedge issue. And this ad does exactly that. And that
I would respectfully disagree.
This man is Ken Brian Millman. He is a global head of public affairs and co-head of an investment firm called Kohlberg Kravis Roberts. Millman also used to be the Republican National Committee chairman from 2005 to 2007. He is most known for his apology before the NAACP for the Southern strategy, which was a Republican electoral strategy to increase political support among Southern white voters by appealing to racism against black people. I'm no expert on this strategy, so I'll just let the Republican strategist Lee Atwater explain it.
As a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. You start out in 1954 by saying no. By 1968, you can't say that. That hurts your backfire. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now. You're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things. And the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously, maybe that is part of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than that, you know. So any way you look at it, race is coming on the back burner.
So you may be wondering, what's my point? What am I getting at here? Well, at the time that I wrote this script, the House Judiciary Committee had just had a hearing on hate crimes and the rise of white nationalism. Candace Owens, the director of communications at a conservative advocacy group called Turning Point USA, attended this event. And here she made some pretty wild claims.
The myth of things like the Southern switch and the Southern strategy, which never happened.
When you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. Problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
People. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative.
I'm not going to spend much time on these claims because there are plenty of people who have already addressed them, but I do want to ask a deeper question about Ms. Candace Owens. Why? Why make these claims? Most of the things that she said can be disproven with quick Google searches, so why even bother saying something so easy to disprove? Well, the answer to this question is pretty simple. She is banking on the fact that many people won't look into her claims. There is a lot of comfort in thinking that the things you support are good and always good. I'm not at all saying that all Republican voters are inherently racist, or even that the Southern strategy speaks to all Republican voters. I'm simply saying that there is comfort in thinking that your team is inherently and completely good. Candace Owens is comfort food for people who don't want to acknowledge things like the Southern strategy or consider why white nationalists seem to favor the current Republican Party. Candace's very existence is immediate confirmation bias. A black woman is saying this stuff, so it might as well be true to them. Sure, most other black people would disagree with her views, but this is typically written off with talking points about being on a Democrat plantation or black people not being free thinkers. There is a huge market to be tapped into here, and Candace Owens is doing exactly that. The reason why this dynamic exists is because we live under capitalism. Any and everything can and will be capitalized on as long as there's a market for it. An unfortunate reality of this dynamic is that people will do damn near anything to gain capital and will then use the resources gained from their earned capital in ways that create more opportunities to gain even more capital. The more capital an individual has, the more influence they have. This is why the Charlie Kirks and Dennis Prayers of the world fund people like Candace Owens. She is a tool to be used. Her purpose is to prey on racial tension, attempt to localize racism to the left and modern Democrats, and then distort the meaning of subversive concepts in order to uphold the status quo. The idea here is to polarize people on the right to the point that they perceive anything associated with the left or Democrats as bad, even if these are things that they could potentially benefit from. In the early 20th century, racism and white supremacy were relatively neutral terms. They were not really subversive terms yet because many people comfortably identified with these things. By the 20th century and early 21st century, the terms became taboo because they were associated with a time period most Americans recognized as being bad today. Currently, these terms are subversive and are typically used to call attention towards an injustice or inequality. Unfortunately, people like Candace Owens are trying to dilute the subversiveness of terms like racist or white supremacy. If anyone calls something racist today, there are many people who will claim that the person calling attention to the injustice is the one who is the real racist, or they're just doing the cultural Marxist politics or whatever. Now, in terms of the larger meaning of people like Candace Owens, I don't know. I don't know what we should do, or even if we even should do anything about it. The people who choose to buy into what she is selling tend to not be receptive to explanations about why she's wrong. From my experience, you are normally not arguing against the points when engaging with this crowd. You're kind of just arguing against a person's cultural background, their experiences, and apathy. But that's just my perspective on this matter, though. I'd really love to hear what you guys have to say about this, and I'd like to open a dialogue about this.